Amen. I grew up in the days where Charles Bronson, Lee Marvin, Steve McQueen, Clint Eastwood, guys, huh?
Chuck Norris.
Well, even before Chuck Norris, yeah. But I am a Chuck Norris fan, yeah. I grew up in the days where those movies showed you what a hero was, right? All those great World War II movies, just unimaginable bravery, right? Those guys had nerves of steel. You know, they're crushing the Nazis. They're, well, when I think of that, I think of the movie Bridge over River Kwai, right? I love that movie, right? And we look at those movies, and I get goosebumps thinking about those childhood movies, watching them, and just, we would go out in the fields, and then, you know, we would pretend like we were soldiers, and we would do all that. And you come away from that type of cinematography with the notion that bravery and courage is meaning that you're never afraid, right? Those guys never showed fear, right? I mean, you just look in the eyes of Charles Bronson and you're afraid, but you know he never had fear. Well, if you want to tune in or tune out for the rest of what I have to say, I'm just going to tell you right now, courage is not the idea of never being afraid. It's not the fact that you don't have fear. Fear is natural. Fear is good. Fear probably saves us from a lot of bad stuff. Courage is the idea that you can still act and move forward and you're not frozen by your fear. I just finished a book this morning. Tammy picked this up for me a little while back, and it's called The Bomber Mafia. So today's sermon is brought to you by Malcolm Gladwell. I highly recommend this book. I don't consider myself a pacifist. He's not a pacifist. But I don't really like the idea of war. And he doesn't either. And what the book is really about is the history during World War II of precision bombing. And so when the Air Forces started, I think in 1947, the Army's already been flying the B-29s, right? But the idea is, how can we quickly bring war to an end, and how can we limit the casualties? And so they were obsessed with precision bombing, but it didn't work out the way they thought it did. And so lo and behold, in the process of that, they stumble upon a paint product from DuPont Chemical that catches on fire, which becomes what is very famous during Vietnam, napalm. And there's a lot in here on the use of that and just the mass incineration of a lot of Japan. Very good read. This weekend we are celebrating Memorial Day, and we think about our soldiers, and we think about the people who lay their life down so that we have the freedoms that we have. And we celebrate that for a reason, because we're grateful people. But man, is it a balance between protecting your freedoms and just the costs mentally and emotionally that soldiers pay. So I hope that we never forget that. And above all of that, we think of our soldiers as heroes, as well we should. People who are willing to sacrifice their life, limb, liberty, the whole thing, so that we can have the blessings that we have. They are heroes. And we continually need heroes. People who face down their fears in the face of death. And we need spiritual heroes, not just military heroes. I don't know what you think about MacArthur. I'm back and forth whenever I read history. Sometimes I think, man, this guy's awesome. Then this guy's well, I won't say the word idiot out loud, but, you know, I mean, I like, oh my gosh, he's so pompous. But anyway, you know, amazing people like that in history. I'll tell you another one, Teddy Roosevelt. That guy, he's my favorite president. I love Teddy Roosevelt. I love reading anything I can get on that guy. But we need spiritual heroes, and that's what I want to talk about today. Heroes of faith, and that's why I chose Joshua. Heroes rescue us from our fears. Heroes step in when we don't seem to have the strength. And the fears that they rescue us from seem to be bigger and more powerful than us. And that's why we feel like we need a hero. And so when you think about fear, what is our greatest fear? Is it fear of rejection? Is it fear of failure. The greatest fear that you face. You know, some people say public speaking. More people are afraid of public speaking than they are dying, I've read. I don't know if that's true or not. Is it fear of failure? Is it fear of embarrassment? I don't know. But I will tell you what I believe in my heart of hearts to be the most powerful fear that really immobilizes people, and it's the fear of transition. I was working on this passage this week, and it came clear to me. The book of Joshua is about a transition. I don't know. I mean, I've read this story countless times. I've known about it for years. I don't know why it never clicked until this week. But it's a fear of transition. And I believe that's the most powerful fear that we have. It's a book of transition. And I think, I'm going to step out on a limb here, but I think the reason so many people liked COVID, yes, I'm using the word liked, that period was it froze everything in place. Think about it. When everything is locked down, nothing is really changing. I don't have to make any decisions because I'm prohibited from it. And I think at a certain level it became comfortable for us to extend that period of concern because it gave us like a false sense of an illusion of security. It gave us a stability. Things felt stable. The world is changing so fast. Like that book Toffler wrote back in the 80s of the different waves. Like the agricultural wave was 5,000 years. Then, we had the space age and the information age. And the laps get shorter and shorter. And the world just seems to be out of control. And we don't like that. Things are changing too fast, right? I mean, the old cliche for people my age is we don't know how to set the time on our VHS. Kids don't even know what a VHS player is anymore. Right? Things change, and that scares us, and we don't like change. And so therefore, I think our greatest fear is the fear of transition. Transitions terrify us. In fact, we prefer mediocrity if it's stable to the fear of the unknown that we don't know how it's going to turn out. It's tough. We'll stay in a mediocre job with mediocre people, with mediocre prospects, just because we're afraid of what the future may be. And that's a pretty high price to pay. But we're intimidated. That prospect of changes. And most of us don't like to take chances. We are risk aversive as a people. Most of us do not like to take a risk. We don't like to take a chance. We want security. We want the promise of, I know this is stable and this will work out, and it immobilizes us. And we don't move forward. And unfortunately, we tolerate what's less than ideal because we're intimidated by transition, by change. By the prospect of what if? What if it were different? Well, let me take you back in the Wayback Machine, Mr. Peabody, to the year 1406 BC. That's when scholars believe that Joshua is ready to cross over, ready to take the people across. It's around the year 406 BC, and they're going to cross over the Jordan. And isn't it interesting what a metaphor that has become culturally, right? When you hear the Jordan, it means you're going to cross over. For some, in country and western music, you're going into the afterlife, right? I'm going to cross over the Jordan. I'm going to go meet my people. For most people, literature, culturally, it means I'm going into the promised land, which means what? I'm getting ready to inherit some blessings. Things are going to be better. I'm crossing over into the promised land. And so all of history, we use that, the idea of the fulfillment of blessings that have been promised. So I want you to keep this in mind as we look at Joshua, the first few verses here, just a little bit. The reminder of the blessings of transitions. The reminder of God's promises, right? These promises that Joshua are helping see fulfilled go all the way back to Abraham, right? Back to the beginning of the patriarchs. God tells him he's going to make him a great nation. great people and they're going to have the land, right? So a lot has happened between Abraham's time and Joshua's time. But it's a powerful reminder of the value of transitions, God's promises, God's guidance, God's provision, God's protection, His redemption. But most of all, what I don't want you to forget is Joshua is a story of God's presence, of God being with His people. Joshua chapter 1, well, I could back this up here. After the death of Moses, the servant of the Lord said to Joshua, son of Nun. Joshua, by the way, is the Hebrew name for Jehovah saves. Right? You know, when Jesus is coming into Nazareth, or coming in to Jerusalem, and they're saying, Hosea, Hosea, right? That means salvation, save us, right? So Yeshua is Jehovah saves. By the way, mentioning Jesus, that's the Greek rendering of Joshua. So when Jesus grew up, he's really being called Joshua. What a name to carry, right? Jehovah saves. So Joshua, son of Nun, I guess that means he didn't have any parents, right? That must be what that means. Or his mom was a nun, I don't know. Right? No, as his dad is Nun, right? Moses' his aide de camp, his right-hand man, his Alexander Hamilton, right? It's his secretary. He's right there with him the whole time. And he says, Moses, my servant, is dead. Now then, you and all these people get ready to cross the Jordan River into the land I'm about to give them, to the Israelites. Israel, one who wrestles with God. That's what that means in the Hebrew, right? Jacob wrestles with God all night long, and God changes his name from heel catcher to the one who wrestles with God. And now his children are called those who wrestle with God. So, if you think that you have a back and forth relationship, or your spiritual maturity isn't always on an upward trajectory, or you're not always happy with yourself the next morning, or you feel like a person who's made mistakes and you say, well, how could God love me? His chosen people are called the ones who wrestle with Him. Just food for thought. You and all these people get ready. I'm going to give it to the Israelites. Right? I will give you every place where your foot is set, as I promised Moses. Everywhere you walk. It's faith, but you got to walk it off. If you don't take any steps forward, that's all that's going to happen, right? Your territory will extend from the desert to Lebanon. Great forested area, right? From the great river, the Euphrates, all the Hittite country, to the Mediterranean Sea in the west. So they are on the eastern side of the Jordan. It's arid. It's desert land. It's not very fruitful. But you're about to cross over, right? Onto the other side of the river, where now it's a very fertile land, the land of milk and honey, right? There you go. And no one will be able to stand against you all the days of your life. And I want you to take special note of 3 phrases in verse 5. I was in the past, right? As I was with Moses. So you got to think about Joshua for a moment here. His whole career as a leader has been what? Second place. He has been Moses' helper. He has been in the shadow of an incredibly influential person his whole life. Now that could be intimidating. Can I live up to Moses' example? Or it could be frustrating. When is it my turn to take over? I don't know how it was for Joshua. But I do know God wants him to reflect on the past. Did you see how I took care of Moses? You can expect the same, right? I was with Moses. Future, I will be with you. Reflect on the past. You can be confident in the future. And why can you be confident? I was, I will be, and I will never leave you nor forsake you. I was with Moses. I'm going to be with you. I'll never leave you. Now, the conclusion of that is what? Verse 6, be strong and courageous. I was with Moses. I'll be with you. I'll never leave you. Therefore, be strong and courageous, because you will lead these people to inherit the land I swore to their ancestors and give them. Be strong and very courageous. We'll come back to that in just a moment. I wonder if I can block that out. There we go. So now you have to listen to me, not the text, right? Just kidding. Whole career, standing behind Moses. But there's the promise. I was with Moses. I'll be with you. I'm never going to leave you. I just want you to imagine for just a moment. What's on your mind for lunch today? What do you got for lunch? What's coming to mind when you think of lunch right now? Mexican. And we have a lot of choices in Kingsport for Mexican. Taco Loco is amazing tacos, but they're only doing takeout right now. Jacob loves La Carreta. Santa Fe has an incredible design inside. I mean, we've got a lot of good choices. What else comes to mind when you think of lunch? All right, whatever you're thinking of, how about you think of a cracker that tastes like it's got honey on it, and that's all you've eaten for 40 years? For 40 years, Joshua has had nothing to eat but manna, the Hebrew word for what's it? What is this stuff? Right? It's described as like a cracker dipped in honey with coriander seeds, whatever that is. However delicious it is, 3 times a day, 40 years, no thank you. I don't care how good the Mexican food is. I don't care how perfect the tomahawk steak is. I don't care what you're eating. 40 years. Joshua might not be thinking about anything else but lunch at this point. No, yeah. I don't know. But that's a long time. And they're going to cross the river. And it's a very simple plan now at this point. Cross the river, conquer the enemy, and divide the land among the inheritance. Pretty simple, right? That's got to be intimidating. When your pattern has been, when that pillar of fire or cloud of smoke moves, you pick up your tent and you follow it. For 40 years, back and forth in the desert, back and forth. And now, everything has changed. You're going to conquer those pagans. You're going to divide that land. Why would God feel the need to tell Joshua, don't be afraid? I was with Moses. I'll be with you. I'll never forsake you. Do you remember reading the story of the Exodus? Moses going to lead the people out. You remember the story of the 10 plagues. You remember how they're going to go and they're going to cross the Red Sea. And God stops up the waters and they're going to cross on the dry land. Do you remember the people wanting to rebel against Moses? Wasn't it better for us when we were slaves in Egypt? We had cucumbers and onions and leeks and all these things to eat. Wasn't it better? Maybe we should turn around and just go back. Why? Because that's all we've known. For 430 years we've been slaves. We had cucumbers and onions and garlic, and it was so much easier just being a slave than this. Because I don't know what this is. I don't know what happens once I cross that Red Sea. I don't know if I can trust this future. Let's go back. Let's go back and be slaves. Joshua's got to be thinking about that. Right? We've been in the desert for 40 years. We're about to cross this river now, just like we crossed that Red Sea. And everybody might say, let's just keep wandering around in the desert. Let's just keep living in tents. Let's just keep eating this manna stuff. I'm sick of it. It's not as good as Nutella, but it's here. It's free. And it's every... Let's go back and be Pharaoh's slaves. That's got to be in the back of his mind. But it's a call for trust and for obedience. Be strong and courageous. You're going to lead these people to inherit the land that I swore to their ancestors. Over 400 years ago, I made the promise. Well, 400 years, we can't wait 4 hours. What happens when someone is texting with you and then they stop texting? What's going on here? We go 4 seconds and all of a sudden we're like, ah. Could you imagine waiting 400 plus years for a promise to be? What are you doing for lunch today? I don't know. What about you? What do you want to do? They haven't gotten back to me yet. What am I going to do? 400 years. A call for trust. But it turns into a call for obedience. Be strong, very courageous. Be careful to obey all the law. The first 5 books of the Bible that we call the Pentateuch, right? Everything that Moses wrote down. Obey all of that. Don't turn from it to the right or to the left, that you may be successful wherever you go. Keep this book of the law always on your lips. Meditate on it day and night so you may be careful to do everything written in it. Then you will be prosperous and successful. Have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged, for the Lord your God, again, this is about presence. The Lord your God will be with you. Let me wrap up with this idea. Life's transitions are rarely peaceful or easy. Right? I mean, just think of the way we transition when we come into this world. The whole process of birth. Think about the way we transition out of this life. That transition of death. Nothing is peaceful. Nothing is easy. Life is a series of transitions that are never, or at least rarely, peaceful and easy. That we give up our comfort zone. Going from what is known and stable, even if we don't really like it, to something that's unknown and scary and intimidating and terrifying. It's quite the sacrifice when you think about it. That willingness to make that transition. Afraid that we'll fail. Maybe it won't work out. There'll be a setback. We'll experience great loss. But that's when we lack in trust in ourselves and in God's promises. So I've said all this to say, don't let your limitations blind you to God's unlimited ability. Just keep verse 9 in mind. Have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged, for the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go. God's ability, and more so, God's presence, beats out fear every time.